This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening and thank you for being with us tonight. The U.S. is on a collision course with one of the most powerful Atlantic hurricanes ever recorded. Irma, a Category 5 storm with sustained winds of an eye-popping 185 miles per hour. Precise track. We have the hurricane covered, beginning with Gabe Gutierrez with storm preparations in Florida. Gabe, good evening.
Lester, good evening. Officials here in Miami-Dade County say they expect to start some evacuations as early as tomorrow. And down in the Florida Keys, they are calling this a worst-case scenario. Millions along the East Coast are now closely watching one of the strongest Atlantic storms on record. Tonight, across Florida, the rush is on.
Can't take no chances. We got to just, get prepared.
The Keys closing schools and preparing to start evacuating tourists tomorrow. How worried are you about the storm?
Extremely worried. On a scale of 1 to 10, probably 13.
Airline change fees and highway tolls now waived as residents rush to get out. Gabe Gutierrez, NBC News, Miami.
This is Morgan Radford. Tonight, Puerto Rico in the bullseye, preparing for what could be one of the biggest hurricanes the island has ever seen.
It's a huge storm, so people are really worried about it.
Spend the night.
Mayors are no better than people, and people need to know that their mayor is there.
There on a tiny island, bracing for a heavy hit.
The president has just accepted the governor's request to declare a federal state of emergency for Puerto Rico. And if you look here just behind me, you can see those clouds getting darker, those waves getting choppier as Irma is headed our way. Lester?
All right, Morgan Radford in Puerto Rico tonight. Thank you. Al Roker is here. We just went through Harvey. That was a history maker. This one could write some history of its own.
Absolutely, Lester. In fact, only 4 other storms have gotten to this strength before. There's none.
All right, Al, thanks very much. We'll see you in the morning with updates. Now to our other big story, protests erupting nationwide after the Trump administration announced it will end DACA. That's the Obama-era program that shields nearly 800,000 undocumented immigrants brought to the U.S. as children, also known as dreamers, from deportation. But the move also gives Congress a 6-month window to pass a replacement. NBC News White House correspondent Kristen Welker has our report on this. Kristen, good evening.
Lester, good evening to you. Tonight, the president is taking heat from the left and right. Immigration advocates say his move to end DACA is cold-hearted, but his base is accusing Mr. Trump of punting on a core campaign promise, all as the fate of nearly 800,000 young immigrants remains uncertain. Tonight, sound and fury, with protesters storming major cities all across the country, outraged after the Trump administration announced it's rescinding DACA.
Scared that my life might change.
Tonight, former President Obama, who enacted DACA, said in a statement, to target these young people is wrong because they have done nothing wrong, and it is cruel.
It makes absolutely no sense from an economic standpoint. Never mind the fact that this is America. This is a place where we should welcome people like this.
The president's own party is deeply divided. Members of his base say DACA should end now, but more moderate Republicans believe dreamers should be protected.
The question is, can we come together? The answer is we have no other choice.
Kristen Welker, NBC News, the White House.
This is Jacob Soboroff in California. This morning, Pablo Garcia rushed to make an impromptu stop before his first class at Cal State Fullerton. Like 900 of the 40,000 students on campus here, Pablo is a dreamer. Brought to the U.S. from Mexico illegally when he was 5. And at the school's resource center dedicated to undocumented immigrants, he heard from the Attorney General what he feared most.
DACA is being rescinded.
How do you process the idea of leaving here and having to one day go there, maybe within 6 months from now?
It's just heartbreaking that, I know I could be deported anytime.
Month countdown begins. Jacob Soboroff, NBC News.
Tonight, a new show of force and new threats from North Korea as the U.S. keeps a close eye for another provocation after North Korea's most powerful test by far, claiming to have exploded a hydrogen bomb, which would be another rapid advance in Kim Jong-un's nuclear arsenal. Our chief foreign correspondent, Richard Engel, has the latest from South Korea.
South Korea today baring its teeth at North Korea in live fire drills that are now almost daily. From North Koreans living close to the border, sending badly needed cash back home.
Vladimir Putin will be in that region tomorrow in the city of Vladivostok for an economic summit. But here in Seoul, all eyes progress on that expected missile launch. North Korea already proved it has a bomb. Now it wants to show it can deliver it. Lester?
Richard Engel tonight in South Korea. Thank you, Richard. And back in this country as the U.S. braces for another potentially devastating blow from Hurricane Irma. In Texas, some homeowners are just beginning to assess the scope of the damage from Harvey. As the water recedes, the reality of a long road ahead is setting in. NBC's Miguel Almaguer has more on that tonight for us from Houston.
Edward James never thought his homecoming would be this heartbreaking.
There's still water.
His house in Port Arthur no longer underwater, but his life still is.
When roads were turned into rivers, this region was brought to its knees. Now that the water is gone, there is still destruction as far as the eye can see.
With the massive cleanup underway, in Houston, only 1 in every 6 homeowners has flood insurance. Insurance teams are assessing the damage, flying drones home to home. For Edward James and many more, there's little to say, but plenty to be grateful for.
I will never forget that sound.
Plucked from the flood, but tonight back home, facing an unfolding disaster. Miguel Almaguer, NBC News, Houston.
Still ahead here tonight, cold medicine murder, the bizarre defense an aspiring pastor is giving for killing his wife